little girl, the people are slightly wrong. The little girl who lives down the lane. I always say the little girl who lives down the end of the block. We brought that to TCM. It was the first time I saw it last year. Blew me away.
It's a weird film.
Oh, it's definitely a weird film. Your performance, though, not weird. It's so self-assured. It's so confident. And,
saving these two.
So, and obviously, you didn't know the film that year called Taxi Driver. And Freaky Friday.
We made it.
And Bugsy Malone will be showing up in our events. This is the right on it. They'll be showing up in our 2-for-1 director series that airs Saturday nights and coming up in a few weeks. Paul Thomas Anderson program. And where did that confidence come from at such a young age? Because I found out today. How many acting classes did you take?
None.
So where did it come from?
I think there was a couple of things. One, I was blessed that I started acting before I even remember, so I've never felt self-conscious about it. So I don't have the same kind of fears to get over that a lot of people have when they first start acting. And then I guess you have a personality when you come up. I mean, that was true of my two sons. They came out and they were exactly who they are now. I guess I was confident. I think I was calm though. I think I'm a calm person, and so I don't have that kind of like fear of public performance. I tend to keep my calm and keep my focus.
Jonathan Demme, the director of Silence of the Lambs, said, I wish you could have seen how effortlessly she would suddenly become Clarice Starling. That you don't have any, you're not pacing off set, you're not firing yourself up to get in the character.
Well, you know what? You do whatever it takes. And so as I didn't go to an acting class, so I had to develop a procedure, or I guess a technique myself in order to concentrate myself. And I've learned that what I need to do is I need to drink a little coffee, and then I need somebody to say action, and that's kind of it.
I think that's what they teach the actors do, actually. That's it.
But sometimes there are little tricks that we do. If I have a character who speaks a certain way, or sits a certain way, has a certain mannerism, maybe I will do that like just as the clapper is coming in, just as we're sitting in to go in for a take, and then that gets me back into whatever the character is like.
Clarice Starling has an accent.
Yes, she does.
Right.
Virginia.
How long, so you could be speaking normally to the crew, or as you're getting makeup put on, and then the action, that accent just comes. You don't get into it first.
No, and I did work a lot on the accent because I love that kind of stuff. Everybody has their own way. Some people need to listen to music, for example, and that allows them to feel fearless and to have the confidence to start with something. I'm not good at having to concentrate for long periods of time. As an actor, I can't do that, so I need breaks. I've learned that about myself. I can sometimes distract the other actors, so I've learned to stay away from them, because I'll be telling jokes, or I'll be telling some story, I'm like, hey, and this thing happened, or this thing happened. Okay, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about before the period of time after you had this sudden amazing start of the Washington Post, prodigious movie talent in the making, they called you. Later, People Magazine, after you've done a couple other movies, including Fox's Adrian Lyne, arguably the best young actor in Hollywood. And then, for all of that, you had that big year in 1976, and you made some other films, and that's when that stuff's getting written about you. And then, before you make The Accused, I'm curious about this. Do you ever have a sense that, oh man, I was supposed to be big and great, and this was supposed to be huge, and maybe this isn't gonna happen?
Well, I'm sure we all have that thing where you say, wait, but I thought I was supposed to have this great meaning in my life, or I had this idea I was gonna be a baseball player. I mean, I think we all have those moments. Of humility, really, where you have to learn that it's not a given, and you have to work for it, and you have to care about it. Those years, so there's a lot of years between The Accused and the year that all those films came out. I think I was probably 14 by the time all those films came out, and The Accused I was probably 25, so that's 10 years. In that time, I worked a lot, I made a lot of films. I went to college, which was important to me.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Yale University. And
I went to Harvard and then 2 subway stops past Harvard. Near.
I did not think that I was going to be an actor. My mom had always said to me, by the way, are you going to be a lawyer or a writer? Assuming that my career would be over by the time I was 18 for sure. And then I guess I pursued it because I didn't know anything else, and I really wanted to make films. At that time, I wanted to be a director, but you know, there really were no women directors. There was Lena Burtmiller, I was a huge fan of Lena Burtmiller fans. Other than that, I couldn't tell you one female director. So what I understood was I had to write in order to become a director. So I thought, oh, well, let's just be a writer. This acting thing, I guess I needed to support my family and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I continued it for that. I did The Accused. I thought, I did not do a very good job in this movie.
Right, you really didn't think you'd done it.
No, you know, I was young and I just didn't have a clear picture of myself, and the producers seemed to be very disappointed in my performance. While I was there, the director had a lot of, towards the end, had a lot of things that he wanted from the character that I wasn't able to give him. I wish I could have, and I wasn't able to. And when I saw the film, I saw the character as like, wow, she's really brash and unlikable, and I kind of find her annoying, and maybe I should quit this acting thing and do something else. So I took my GREs and I was getting ready to go to grad school, and then I got nominated for Oscar.
You saw The Accused and thought, I gotta go to grad school. So, you said this too, I don't know this. When you win an Oscar, you have 3 options. You either go for a juicy performance piece to get another nomination. You use it to make a big movie that makes millions of dollars, you get paid a lot of money. Or you use it to get something that you normally wouldn't have access to, so I guess that's what I did, which brings us to the Son of the Winners.
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess, well, I don't know, my first Oscar that I won, then I did Sons of Lambs like right after that, so they were almost back-to-back Oscars. But I really wanted to direct, so that's what I used it for, was to be able to get my first film off the ground. I had to act in it in order to get it off the ground. It was called Little Matt Tate, and it's about a child prodigy.
When
We
earlier,
premiered it here, right here, at this theater. That was the premiere.
and I think this is its 30th anniversary, isn't it? 1994?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
Do you remember the advice that you, what was his name? What's the kid's name?
Adam Hahn Bird.
Yeah, that you, because of you given your approach, your unique approach to acting, what you basically told him.
I don't know what I said.
He basically said, just pretend.
Yeah.
Pretend. Yeah.
Yeah, that would get me in trouble with a lot of grown-up actors saying that. I think that the most valuable piece of experience and wisdom that I have to pass on now, because now I'm at a different time in my life, I'm in my 60s, and I work with a lot of younger actors that are quite nervous when they walk in, and they have a lot, you know, they've done a lot of work, and they've done a lot of research, and they've worked a lot on their character. I think the most useful tool that I have to tell them is that they should just relax and everything's gonna be okay. That seems like a very uncomplicated, simple idea, but that little Buddhist, us bringing to your work is probably the most important thing in order for you to be able to access character.
That quote that I read you actually did say after The Accused, so in a sense you did use that to sort of challenge yourself with Silence of the Lambs, and then you're like, well, now I got 2, now I get to direct, right? What drew you to this part there? What made you think something I normally wouldn't have access to? Part of Clarice.
For Silence?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it was an absolutely intellectual, emotional, spiritual attraction to the material. A writer friend of mine had mentioned the book. I read the book, and I immediately tried to buy the book so that I could try and make it as a film. I found out it was owned by somebody else, that Orion had the rights, and that they were going to make the movie with, this is really interesting for people that are into films, movie with Gene Hackman as a director, his first film. And they were, the script was being written by Ted Talley at the time.
Gene Hackman was going to direct it.
He was going to direct it, and he was going to play Crawford, so Scott Glenn's character. And I was okay. Well, I want to be considered. Now, I guess I can't buy the book, but I want to be considered for Clarice. They said yes. Gene Hackman read the first draft, decided it was too violent for him. There was no way he could do it, and he dropped out. And in those 10 seconds of me calling the studio and saying, "I've heard you've dropped out, and I'd really like to," they were like, "Yeah, we already gave it to Jonathan Demme." Jonathan Demme, who at that time had done Married to the just finished Married to the Mob. He was more known for comedies, kind of quirky comedies. And I thought, oh no, this is terrible news, because not only is he a comedy guy, but he's gonna want somebody else for the part, which was true. And knowing that Michelle Pfeiffer, who's wonderful, would be his first choice, I got on a plane, I flew to New York, and said I'd like to have a meeting with him to tell him why I'd like to be his second choice. And I sat down with him for whatever it was, 15, 20 minutes, and said, this is why I would like to be your second choice. If anything happens to her, if somebody breaks her legs, for example. We do laugh about this, because she ended up not doing the movie, not ended up doing the movie, but she ended up doing a movie with the director of The Accused, Jonathan Kaplan. So it was kind of like we did a little switch.
So that's not some clever, incredibly funny line. And it's funny, you literally went to him and said, I want to be your second choice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think that if you have that much connection with material, I think you need to make that known. And eventually, sometimes that person that has the connection with material, that's the person who ends up doing it.
So there is, and in almost any review you read a silence, this is what Clarice is tough and strong and driven. And then, of course, in these scenes with Anthony Hopkins, unbelievably vulnerable, all within sentences of each other, right? Is that an understanding that you have moment by moment, or is it? I mean, that's I think why you won the Oscars, one of the great performances of the 20th century. And how did you get there, given your unique approach to this?
I feel that art, in some ways, you can break it into two categories. There's the choreography and there's the dance. There's two sides of the equation, and we have to manage and juggle both. One part is the intellectual side, where you talk about your intentions and you make decisions and you make choices. You say, as a director, you say, I want it to be black and white, or I don't want the camera to move, or I want the camera to move all the time so that it feels kinetic. You create these intentions, you set about these intentions and these choices. And that all happens before you say action. Then you say action. And once you say action, you just have to dance and feel. And a good actor, I think, can juggle between the two, and has a strong intellectual side that's able to make good choices, and a strong emotional side that's able to be in the moment and feel those things at that time. And I think that's really the beauty of Silence of the Lambs, I think, is that it's an incredibly intelligent text, the original book, really interesting, but there's such feeling and such intuition behind it as well.
That dance part, there's the choreography. Once the dance part begins, were you and Anthony Hopkins aware that something special was happening, or was it just this process of making a movie, cut, let's try it again?
There's good projects like that sometimes you know from the beginning. So from the second that the first draft came out of Ted Talley's typewriter, we all looked at that first draft and said, this is perfect, there's almost nothing to change. And almost nothing changed from Ted Talley's first draft. As each person came on, each person was just like, yes. They were just immediate yeses. And I think that's why we all did the best work of our life. And sometimes we'll never reach that height, and as I always say, it was all downhill from there. And that is true sometimes. It's a once in a lifetime experience. That I felt that way on True Detective. I've never felt that way. I think we did. No, I think both Anthony and I, in those scenes, I think we understood how special they were. We didn't know if the audience was going to think so. They were going to agree with us, but or whether the film was going to be successful. But I think that we felt pretty proud of this strange, complicated relationship that we had found that was sort of like a father-daughter, a prodigal daughter. But then there was this oddly, because they're a man and a woman, and because he's a monster, there was a strange, dangerous sexuality about it as well. That is hard to describe.
So there's so many emotional moments, so many funny moments, amazing in this movie.
Yeah.
And there are two lines that as I rewatched it, and I must have seen this movie, I could be up to 10 times now. And have you watched it recently?
Not for a while. I probably have for about 10 years.
There are just these two moments that made me well up. Two lines. One, after the viewing of the body driving back, when you tell Scott Glenn, Jack Crawford, when he sort of gives a half-assed apology about why he acted super sexist to get those guys to trust him, and that moment where you sort of stand up for yourself and everybody else and tell them, no, but what you do, the way you act matters. Right?
Yeah, it matters. That people are watching you to see how you act, and it matters.
I don't know, that sort of, it was like, here's this, you're a trainee, you haven't even graduated yet, right? And you have this understanding about how the world works.
And if they're in the sort of mythic world of who Clarice Starling is, because she does belong to a mythology that has always been reserved for men, but she belongs to a very old mythology, a literary mythology of the hero. Clarice Starling's the quality that she brings forward, that is why when she meets the ogre and she is able to conquer the ogre, what she brings with her is her vulnerability and her association with the victim.
I don't know that there's a better moment. That's the other scene. Well, obviously, first of all, as you're working your way, and he's got the night vision goggles.
Yes.
But I mean, movies have shown us courageous people hundreds and hundreds of times. But I don't know that anyone has ever more captured courage in the face of the most fear that you can have, and you're still opening doors.
Yes, there's a lot of anecdotes about that scene. You guys, hopefully you guys have all seen the scene. There was a lot of frustration on that week of shooting that. Number one, all the moths died. They came flown in from some warm climate, and then something happened. We were in Pittsburgh in the middle of winter, and every moth died. And so there were men with fishing poles going like this. Dead moths everywhere. The second thing that people don't realize is that in that scene, that end scene, is that it is fully lit. Of course, we need light in order to make films. We can't make films in the dark. And not only do we need light, we needed lots of light because the camera couldn't see a shadow. So all the light had to be flooded on me. So in the scene where I look like I'm in the dark and I don't know where I am and where is he, and it's fully floodlit on the front. And if you're a student, you like these kinds of things, you will see a camera shadow. There's one camera shadow that's still in there as a mistake.
Well, that makes that performance even better.
And the doors opening was really a problem because it was the last day of shooting and everybody was tired. They were all heading to Bimini the next day. It was a 22-hour workday. And the prop person's job, her whole job, was to open the doors. There are many doors, and there were one shot that goes through all the doors, and every time I'd hit like door number 3, it would be closed. We'd have to go back again, and then it would be door number 4 was not open, like was not closed. It was.
That is good stuff. That is good. And that's real quick. We got to go. But the other thing is the way you defend the name of the victim when you meet the ogre, the other ogre, and he says, "Oh wait, was she a great big fat girl?" And you just say, "Yeah, she was a big girl." Like there is a kindness and a sensitivity there that it's in the script, sure, but it's in the manner in which you deliver it. This notion that you're speaking for her even in this moment when you don't even know yet that this is a.
That's Clarice's superpower, is her compassion. It's never going to be that she's big and brawny. It's that she's compassionate for the victim and that she is willing to open herself up in terms of vulnerability, to understand that the killer is a human being. And which is something that many of the other characters in the film won't do. They keep wanting to say, he's a monster, he's a monster. Hannibal Lecter's a monster, or Buffalo Bill is a monster. When, in fact, her great power is to say, no, he's not a monster, he's one of us. He's a human being, and we need to examine what the reasons are why he makes the choices that he does.
Well, we're gonna wrap tonight because I did this on opening night, and there is a line from the movie that I quoted all my life.
Oh.
Like, I'm not gonna exaggerate.
Is it the Fava Beans of the Chianti?
No,
No.
too easy. No, it's your line.
Okay.
275 times. Whenever anyone calls me, and then it's like a telemarketer, and there's no one at the end of the phone.
What do you say? Okay, I like this.
Dr. Lecter? Dr. Lecter? Dr. Lecter?